I decided to dedicate the next part to the books where you can color flowers, nature, and let's start from this creative heaven in full bloom. The artist's name is Ruth Sofer. Here we have really huge portraits of flowers. Challenge is that actually because of the huge size you will require some time to finish such pictures. But the easiest thing is that you don't have to struggle with color palette. All you need to do is to look at the name of the flower to find nice reference pictures, and then through your pencil sets you can find matching colors. So that's exactly what I did. Because of the huge size of the pictures, I prefer to use here my budget sets like Subcolor, Arteza or Starjoy, but they also provided me with some nice colors, and for now I have 3 finished illustrations. I prefer to do those frames around images. For me, in such way pictures look more accurate, and as I said, these were made with pencils. But I think that for my future works in this book, I will try to widen amount of media I can use here. Maybe I can color something here with gouache paints, and I really want to start using markers. Here I want to color everything, starting from exotic tropical flowers, then I absolutely love cacti flowers, and of course those flowers which I can find around me, so more traditional. Maybe it's not my very frequent book, but I really missed it during the spring when I didn't have it with me. Somehow, the time when I mostly want to color flowers, it's obviously spring. Not even summer, but spring. And second book, it's also for the spring theme, and I also missed this one. I got it last winter, and I was waiting for spring to color many pictures here. Here we have mix of various illustrators, so you never would be bored to color this book. You can find grayscale line art pictures, but unfortunately this spring I was far from home and I didn't have this book with me. I hope that this spring I will fill in this book with many beautiful pictures. For now I have just one picture finished. It's from the part created by Anna Marcinska, and I selected this one because I love everything here. These beautiful Japanese plum flowers and also beautiful slightly pensive girl. I think that I used gouache and watercolors to create this background in peach, light yellow and pink colors. Similar colors but more intense in richness I used for the flowers, but this time I used pencils, mostly Starjoy. They have really nice variety of pink colors. And then I selected this emerald green to create interesting color contrast for the kimono of the girl. And I think that with such color of her clothes and with dark hair, she created a nice central element. As I said, in this book I have a lot of pictures I want to do. Grayscale, line art, nice pictures by Karolina Kubikovska, slightly less frightening than in her other books. So I hope that this spring I will spend a lot of nice time with this book. Of course, if we talk about flowers, there will be flower year included. Well, I know you would ask me why I hadn't finished this book yet, why I stopped to color here. I don't have any answer. Maybe because pictures which are left here, I don't know how to finish them properly. Or maybe something else. Maybe it's just my laziness. Well, let's simply have a look at how my book is almost finished. Almost. Here I have even this first page. I was surprised that some of the pigments, I think that I put maybe peat pen on top of the Dahlia purple from Prismacolor, and they managed to blend, but honestly I don't care at all. I think that I slightly lost my inspiration to color in this book after I finished all those pictures with names of months. For me, they were more interesting. Also, maybe I overdid, because for some time I colored a lot in this book, one by one, and when you do pictures in June, July, August parts, they actually look the same: green, yellow, white, blue. And maybe I got bored. I already tested all my imaginable green combos from Prismacolor set, from Polychroma set. It's a pity that I discovered that I can work in this book with watercolors quite late, when I mostly did all those um, title pages, when I did the biggest amount of spreads. So all I need to color it's those miniature pictures. So it would be quite easy to finish it, but somehow I don't know how to do this final step. I even managed to save some of the illustrations which I messed up from the first step, like this one. But then I switched to Inktense pencils, and they also work quite well here. When I look at this book, of course I can see big difference in the pictures which I did maybe 5 years ago and pictures which I did couple of years ago. On the one side, it's a good thing because I can see my own progress. On the other side, well, when you flip it through, you can see that, oh, I love this spread, oh, this one I could do better. But you know my rules, that I never return to my old works, I never change them. I think that was the spread which completely broken me. I was so overwhelmed by all those green leaves and necessity to find another green color for the remaining leaves, that I put it aside, and it was the moment when I didn't return to it. Well, I still hope that one day I will find back my inspiration, maybe another set of pencils, maybe with watercolors, and I will finish this beauty. As usual, I can highly recommend this book to everyone. I think that it's still available on Amazon, on other shops, because if you love to color nature and flowers, you will be happy with this book. Here I did my watercolor coloring, and paper is absolutely great for water-based media, for Inktense, for watercolors. You can do washes, you can do layering, you can do glazing, any watercolor techniques. You don't have problems with bleeding through. So as I said, I am a little bit disappointed that I discovered this feature of the paper a little bit later. I would prefer to do more in this book with watercolors, but at the same time I don't think that I want to color the same pictures second time, but with different media. I mostly tried to color all these pictures with very light, almost invisible background. If I did background, I mostly use soft pastels, so just a couple of pictures have this colorful, intense background, mostly where flowers are very light, almost white. I wanted to make them more visible against the dark background. Oh, this one I remember that it was one of my last works, and finally here I discovered how to color normal poppies, because before all my poppies, they looked extremely flat. I wasn't able to do nice strong contrast on those very thin transparent petals to make good gradient from almost orange through red to almost brown red colors, make them really alive and beautiful. So that was page where I was extremely proud of my poppies. And here I most of all enjoyed coloring berries. I love to color berries, so when I have choice I always select first pictures with berries. I enjoyed doing this one. It was one of my first works, because horse chestnut tree, it's symbol of my city, and of course we also have a Rowan in the city, so it was for me like coloring Kiev area everything familiar for myself since my childhood, trees which I love and which for me is definitely a symbol of my city. This one I totally messed up with watercolors because I don't know how to do properly shading on the leaves. That's my fault, not the fault of the paper. Other works which I did here with watercolors and Inktense, they look better. So shading on the yellow and orange leaves I mastered, but shading on the green leaves it's still a struggle for me. Here I used Inktense and I think that it looks lovely. November is one of my favorite finished pictures here. Here I even used graphitins, another one of experiments, and as I said, on this paper all pencils work really, really well. For me, autumn and winter pictures here are slightly more interesting, maybe with bigger variety comparing to the spring and summer pictures. But the good thing is that you can color it through the whole year, starting from any month, doing those title pages. So that's a book where you can find everything, beautiful pictures and really good quality of binding and of paper. I also have her other book, which is Floribunda. I think that unfortunately this one is quite rare already, so I'm happy that I managed to purchase it in time. For now I have just a couple of finished projects here. Well, I also don't have an answer why I did a couple of these pictures last year and why I hadn't touched this book this year. Maybe it's something that this summer I've already felt myself stressed and I was afraid that I would mess up with all these beautiful pictures because yeah, they require some color planning. Pictures in this book we have bigger variety of flowers, bigger variety of leaves, and you need more careful color planning. My second one was in yellow, magenta, orange colors, and I would say that I selected two the most simple pictures in this book. The rest of the designs, they are even more complicated, and I still don't know which pencils are better here. Mostly for the green areas I prefer to use polychromos pencils because I think that their greens, they are more natural looking. But for blending on flowers I think that Prismacolors are slightly better. So for now I colored both of these pictures with blend of Prismacolors and polychromoses, and that's how I intend to continue coloring in this book. And of course I intend to continue because pictures are amazing, paper is like thick cardstock, absolutely perfect books. It's a pity that she stopped to publish new books, but the good thing is that she create PDF, digital pictures. If you can print them on the good paper, you definitely will enjoy coloring them. For me, she is the best artist if you love to color botanical illustrations. And I think that the only similar book which I've managed to find similar in the beauty, it's by Polish artist. I will put it in the screen because I don't want to mess up with the name of the book and with the name of the artist. That's also amazing book. So together they are best choice for the lovers of botanical illustrations, but I promised myself that I won't purchase that another book until I will move forward in my Leila Dewley books. And let's move now to the animals. Here we have these German printed books. The first is by Good Wives and Warriors, and it's Exotischer Urwald, or maybe fantasy or exotic forest. Sorry guys, my German it's like 0 level. And Well, here we have book also printed in very good quality on the paper, which allows you to work with watercolors, with pencils. And here is my test title page, where I probably used everything I owned, from watercolors, ink pens, and various pencils, and I realized that you don't have any limits here in this book. I always say that my only problem with this book is that I love to color in a realistic way. So when I see picture, I don't know, for example, from Japanese zoo or Japanese area, I would love to know better what kind of animals and plants we can find in this territory. And if with animals I can search them, with flowers it's even more complicated, especially with more exotic areas for me, like Borneo Island or some other beautiful regions, but with which I'm totally unfamiliar. When I did my first page about this Japanese island where we have ecological area, I tried to search about all those monkeys, varieties of them, what kind of monkeys they have, and what they have, fishes, a lot of mushrooms. So it was quite interesting and instructive. So I was slightly disappointed that somewhere on the picture or in the back of the book we don't have actually names of flowers and plants and animals. Here you can see that another challenge is that spreads, they are very detailed, crazy detailed. Sometimes it looks like mess and you need to resolve puzzle, and you need to decide how to color it so it always look very motley. All those bright tropical flowers, colorful insects, animals, birds. Well, sometimes it's feel overwhelming, but I still enjoy these pictures, mostly because I love to color with my full sets of pencils, and I enjoy doing bright pictures with rich colors. So here you can see all my old works when I never thought about outlining with Posca, masking black lines. I simply worked with pencils and I was totally happy. Here I think that I used Prismacolors for the parrots and a blend of Derwent color softs and Derwent drawings for the muted green colors for the leaves. Here I tried to practice how to color snow with pencils and with watercolors, which paints actually to blend to create shadows on the snow. Here I played with my metal sets of Koloro. When I got them, I tried to use all those pearl blue, pearl green, pearl pink to imitate northern lights, because this black background, it was pre-printed, so it was quite a good opportunity to use pearlescent paints. Well, I do want to color many pictures here, especially this mandala. I think that I will try to color it somewhere in January or February. It could be a nice winter picture. This one I did almost completely with Derwent drawings. I just added a couple of colors for the fishes, I believe, and for the flowers. And then I added gouache background with this snow landscape, just a little bit of mountains and sky, because it was like hanging in the air, so I decided to add a little bit of landscape. Another example of crazy bright picture. Well, sometimes it's boring to do all those leaves repeatedly. Maybe it would look better with smaller amount of details on the background, but all those tropical flowers, you know that it's kind of flower which is eating insects, but here it's tried to eat even frog and bird. It was fun to color, at least for these birds. I managed to find good reference pictures, and I would love to do this for other pictures. This kind of pictures where we have animals constructed from botanical elements, similar to Mille Marotta, they are not my favorites. I prefer, what kind of pictures? Well, with flowers it's better. I do love when we have more realistic pictures, especially dedicated to some of the regions. Oh, like this one. Look at this interesting iguana, frogs, monkeys. That was picture which I want to do from the beginning. So maybe when I decide to return to this book, this Borneo rainforest will be my first choice. And I also want to do this map which we have. Oh, this one also is quite nice, but here we have a lesser amount of animals, so Borneo it's better. And I want to color this map. Absolutely beautiful. This map was the reason why I purchased this book. I have another book in this series printed by the same publisher, but the artist is totally different. Here we have, oh my god, Chachanok Wong. Sorry, I don't want to mess up with the artist name, but slightly complicated. This beautiful lady, we can find info here. And here we have her book dedicated to Asian countries. So far I was in Sri Lanka, I was in South Korea, and I was in China. And my huge dream is also to visit the rest of the Asian countries. I especially want to visit Thailand. I wanted to visit Cambodia. Well, for now I travel virtually. What can I say? Book is beautiful, but at the same time a little bit complicated. Paper is great, so you can work with watercolors and pencils, but somehow it played not a good thing with me, because here, for my first spread, I decided to do watercolor background for the bamboo, because it's a huge area, and then to work with pencils only on panda. So I did very quick bamboo background. At that moment, it seemed for me that it was, well, normal, okay. Then I slightly messed up on panda because I somehow forgot where we need to put white areas of fur and where we need to put dark areas of fur. I started to do this gray shading on the head. Somehow I was thinking that head have to be black and white area have to be on the belly. Then I finally looked at reference pictures. I realized my mistake, but actually it worked for me because it created me this gray underpaint. It created good background, and on top I simply used white paint to do white fur. So I corrected my mistake, and I think that my pandas, they look quite nice. But well, I started to be tired from the picture, and now when I look at the background, it feels totally unfinished, like I was too lazy to put all my efforts into it. Well, I think that maybe I need to work on it better, to return to it, maybe to add additional bamboo trunks there for the empty areas, or to add more leaves. I don't know, but for me it looks unfinished. Maybe I need a little bit more of brown and yellow colors, because greens, they look a little bit boring and plain. I don't know, but it somehow showed me that maybe my skills, they are still not up to the level of this book. For my next project here, I selected totally different style of pictures, those miniatures, different symbols of Japanese, Chinese culture, and I think that here I managed to get much better result. I worked carefully on all these details with Prismacolors or polychromos pencils. They all are on my channel, so I think that with pencils I can get better results here. And I don't know why I stopped coloring this one. Maybe I simply was distracted, because with this project I was much happier, so my confidence returned to me. I think that I need to somewhere put this one into my plans to finish this spread, because most of all here I want to do this one and this one. Actually similar subject about those four forces from Asian mythology, like firebird, white tiger, snake and turtle, and then dragon, which represent various like south, north, east and west, and at the same time earth, air, fire. I have similar picture in Kirby Razanes, so I already learned this legend when I looked at this one. I don't know which one to do, Razanes or this one, or maybe to do them together, trying to use various media. Anyway, that's one of my favorite spreads in this one. And now when I look at this book, I just want to tell myself that I definitely need to return to it. It's another one which I want to do because it has Ganesha, got very interesting, and Ganesha on the elephant, such a beautiful spread. Complicated because you somehow need to do the background, but the rest of it could be very interesting to color. Anyway, I consider this book as one of my treasures in my collection, so of course I intend to color it. That's where I just suffer from, well, suffer. I enjoy having huge coloring book collection, but sometimes it's extremely complicated to find time to dedicate it to each of my beautiful books. So sometimes I feel really sorry that some of the gemstones of my collection, they are still not very frequently used. And finally, in this part, I will show you two books with amazing animals, but with totally different quality. Well, here I have my Spirit Animals by Ravin Phelan, and that's one by printed by Blue Angel Publishers. They always create amazing books. I absolutely love them. The same publisher which printed Jasmine Beckett Griffith's books. So here you can work with watercolors, with any pencils, so paper for me it's great, but the style of the artist for me it's very challenging. I promised myself that in this book I will use only watercolor or water-soluble pencils or ink pens. So I try to do everything without regular pencils, but as I said, because of the artist's style, and many empty areas, sometimes it's difficult for me to color here. For now I have this bear, because I absolutely love this one, color combo of blue and yellow browns. I wanted to repeat it myself. I simply selected slightly more intense blue color for stronger contrast. Well, sometimes I think that for my watercolor skills it was okay. Sometimes I feel that maybe I had to use pencils to make better texture on the fur, or maybe it's better to leave it in such a way, simplified. I don't know, but all my pictures here they made with watercolors. Here another one of my fall projects, and I deliberately did the whole background in orange, yellow, ochre, in red, Tuscan red colors to create good contrast to the quite calm, muted feathers on the bird. So here on the birds I still think that I probably used acrylic paints, they look more matte. And for the central part I also used golden metallic paints, so actually picture looks quite shiny. Another crazy page which I have here, wow, this one, where I also used different watercolors to create crazy background. I do love to mix a little bit of green, blue, turquoise, violet blue. They always look nice together. For the, I don't know, sigil, for the sign, magical sign behind the crow, I used silver blue probably to make it very shiny. And then when I did feathers with a regular watercolor on them, I also added a little bit of shining. Another experiment I did here on the turtle. I used a little bit of alcohol to create this effect on the blue background to make water more interesting, because originally it just had this horizontal lines which I didn't like. But then I think that I totally messed up her head. I'm very unhappy how I did it. My best work here is the lizard, which I did using together ink tents and watercolors here. I think that here I was slightly frightened by the texture of the stones behind the lizard. There was a lot of lines and I tried to mask them as much as I was able, using all my available dark watercolors, granulating watercolors, but I also wanted to make some bright color accents, slightly matching colors which we can find on the body of the lizard. So that's why I added a little bit of quinacridone gold and turquoise to the highlights on the stones. And of course you can recognize very bright, extremely bright colors of Derwent ink tents. I think that for the lizard it was justified to use them. Well, anyway, I definitely will try to color in this book, but when I do something here I need to be like in top creative form. My watercolor skills are very rusty. I mostly use watercolors now just for the quick backgrounds, and if I want to do the whole page, this is my next favorite. I really want to color this one, but I need to be in top form to be very confident. I don't want to mess it up. Well, beautiful book, but still complicated. Maybe I need to find some pictures here where we have more detailed background and smaller amount of the empty areas. I don't know. I can recommend this book, but for more expert colorists. The second book, it has much easier pictures to color because everything was created by Selena. Beautiful flowers, beautiful plants, amazingly done animals, so you don't have to struggle with any textures. But here, you know, that biggest problem is paper. There I can work with everything. Here I struggle each time trying to use softer and harder pencils, trying to cover paper without bald spots. And usually all my works here, they are slightly unsatisfying for me because I know that I was so tired on working on them that I could do better on better paper, but here I was overwhelmed by the paper quality, so I thought that okay, I colored, I don't want to spend more time on struggling on the background or the additional elements, and it's not a very good thing. You know that I promised to finish this book one day, but later I decided to invest all my efforts into finishing Fairy Tales by Selena, and only then I will be able to color on this paper another book, but I will finish it. I promise you. I already colored here so many pictures that it would be a shame not to finish it. Well, you can see that all my backgrounds here, they are extremely simple, and I used here soft pastel, I used here gouache. Some of the pictures which I managed somehow to limit with my own frames or with frames which were created by Selena, they look better. Here I try to do this round background. Good thing is that I discovered that even on this thin paper I can work on the fur texture with my Derwent drawing pencils. Initially I was afraid that on the bad paper they won't create nice fur texture, visible hairs, shading on the fur, but then I realized that no, they are quite awesome for animals, for birds. That was my first picture here, and I even managed to use a little bit of Derwent color softs for how to call it, Moana, for this Guana mountain, and it was first reason why I fall in love with this book. That before actually I didn't know almost almost anything about beautiful Australian nature, about the most important plants, flowers, animals. Of course, I knew most popular animals like koala, wombats and other things, but about flowers or some interesting geological places I've never heard before. So for me it was in the same time pleasure to color and pleasure to learn new things. When I color, I always try to find reference pictures to learn about life on these animals. For example, here we have nocturnal animals, and I tried to do it with a dark blue background, but you can see that I totally failed. Nothing wanted to work smoothly, and my background is absolutely awful. But anyway, at least those bilbies, they are so adorable with their long noses and those tender pink ears. It was quite fun to color. Here again I did the soft pastel background because I was very unhappy with my water. I don't know, but pencils looked very scratchy, grainy here. I was so unhappy with the greenery and with water that I totally abandoned idea of anything good on the background also. Here again I struggled with Black Widow pencils for the background. It's difficult to explain why I selected Black Widow. I simply tried all my pencils here, but at least Rakali, it's water red. I think that she looks nice, and that's where I used mostly my Derwent drawings together with polychromos pencils for the dark areas. Somehow birds are easy for me to color. Feathers, birds, they are definitely slightly less complicated comparing to coloring fur. But I know that one day I will color all of them. I don't color this one because again I don't know how to limit the background. Well, maybe I will draw something like frame here, so I will need to do more smaller area which I need to cover with background color. Here I added something from myself when I looked at a small video about emu. I also discovered that they have eggs of very interesting unusual colors, this black, emerald green, and I decided that I definitely need to put this thing into my picture, so I added those cracked eggs around those baby emu birds. Here I decided to do quite intense background to show that they are quite carnivores, that they are quite active wild animals. Well, again, it's a pity that they recently suffered from many genetical illnesses. I hope that people will manage to find solution how to prevent all these beautiful spices of Australian wildlife to continue to be safe after all those fires and after all those ecological problems. Here I also was quite surprised to discover that indeed these cockatoos, they can have almost pinkish birds, also very unusual. I think that quite unique. I don't know any other birds apart from flamingo having those pink feathers, and I tried to show it here. And indeed this red-tailed black cockatoo, all feathers, they look like they are covered by tiny pearls, tiny beads of white color. Such a strong and amazing contrast. Amazingly beautiful bird. So I have a lot of good memories when I learned about all these spices, but a lot of bad memories about this paper. Here I even tried to do alcohol-based marker background when I needed quite light shading around the wattle flower. But at least I think that blue banded bee looks quite nice and fluffy. Well, here we have rainbow lorikeets. I first colored all the birds here, and only then I started to work on the animals. Sometimes I will think that it's better to leave background totally empty like I did here than to mess up and to feel totally disappointed with the background mess. At least here it looks clear, and any ugly background stains don't distract attention from the interesting quolls, especially adorable babies. Again, Derwent drawings were quite helpful here. While quokkas, they are so nice, one of my favorite animals. Of course, I want to color them. And platypus. Well, I think that platypus will be my next project here, even if I'm afraid to do water on this paper. Here I have this echidna, and I didn't know first how to do all those long needles, but somehow in the end, by using a little bit of Posca and various shades of brown and black pencils, I think that it looks nice. I also added one orchid from myself because we had more of yellow orchid and just one variety of like flying duck probably. Anyway, I wanted to create better balance and added this frame from myself. Of course, coverage here it's far from perfect. I can see white patches of the paper, but that's, I told myself that it's enough to struggle with the paper for this page. Here I have koala, and I was so in love with the colors on the cover that I copied them for my own background. Wombats, amazing animals, I love them so much. I follow so many Instagram accounts of beautiful people in Australia who try to save abandoned tiny wombats, suffered wombats, who recover them and then returns them back to the wildlife. So this book, it helped me to discover a lot of interesting things apart from coloring, like Instagram accounts, interesting videos. Here another page where I decided that I won't be doing any background, that this wallaby already looks quite okay with flowers behind. For the flowers I used polychromos pencils, and even polychromos didn't blend well. Here I maybe need another layer of something light to get rid of the unevenness on the leaves. For the wallaby, sometimes I love to use for the fur my set of Black Widow pencils for the dark skin tones together with Derwent drawings. They work quite well together, surprisingly well. And here I check for myself which pictures I need to color, so we mostly have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, 6. It's not so bad. So I promise that one day I will finish it.